Hello, everybody. Yeah,
Yes.
thanks a lot. Super happy to be here. I have a few announcements as well, so it's a very, very good timing. My session today is going to be around blockchain conversions, but not just. Because when people are talking about blockchain conversions, sometimes they forget that we still need to innovate, right? So blockchain is a very dynamic field with a lot of changes in terms of regulations, in terms of technology, business kind of management. People need to change a lot in order to accept or integrate or embrace the new technology. And basically, in order for us to move to mobile or digital, we had the same transition, and it took some time. And what I see recently, and we see it over the last, I don't know, let's say 5 years, kind of more in earnest, since Bitcoin became like a little bit more solid, and it was not just like few crazy people in a basement trying to run something. And then Ethereum came out with smart contracts. IBM worked on Fabric, and I was one of the early developers actually in IBM research working on Fabric. It's important to remember that with so much going on, we have two competing forces. One is how do we convert stuff to really make sense, and I don't need like 25 wallets or 700 identity standards to work together, because we need the collaboration, as was said, and it's a team sport. At the same time, we still need to keep innovating. I'm going to go over a few things that we have done in the past and just go through kind of an angle that we took in terms of how to work with highly regulated data, environments, institutions, while bringing in kind of the craziness of blockchain and all the disruptions that the technology kind of promises, while keeping people kind of more confident and building it in a safe way with a lot more confidence about the data and not losing control over what is being shared and with whom. So let's start. We are Sarah. We've done a lot. We started very early. First kind of things that we did was when I left IBM Research after working on Hyperledger Fabric, it was 0.5 and 0.6. My role at the time was actually to focus on, the identity and the privacy of Hyperledger Fabric, right? So if you think about Ethereum and Bitcoin as permissionless chains, where I don't really know who are the validators, and I can propose a transaction, and somebody at some point will probably accept it. And if this, there's like the proof of work when I look at the 51% protocol or algorithm or however you want to call it, consensus protocol basically. In Bitcoin, Ethereum just moved to proof of stake. So these are mostly considered as public chains. We started working on permission chains, and people used to call them private chains, but they're actually permission chains. They're not really private because you're still sharing it across multiple organizations. We've seen at the time, and when I left IBM Research, and we still kept very good relationship with IBM, and they helped us a lot. We helped IBM a lot, I believe, is actually to build products and layers that are built on top of Hyperledger Fabric and on top of Ethereum. So we didn't want to take sides, and I'm going to show it in a more visual way, but we basically started building a full stack access control management system. Because even if you're in a permissioned or a non-permissioned way, when you work with sensitive data, when you need to kind of comply with regulations, or even if you don't worry about the law, but you really care about who accesses your data, who can read it, who can write it, who can share it. It was not that simple to do in a new system which is not centralized. It's not one organization that has a policy and has one HR department and has one active directory. We're talking about like a group of organizations, companies, different people, even on mobile. And we are sharing stuff, and most blockchains today are immutable. You cannot erase anything. So we thought it was very important to focus on that. Why do you want to permission? Okay, I think it's clear now. KYC, AML, HIPAA compliance, all the requirements, data retention, identity theft. There's so many things that are related to access management, even in permissioned and in non-permissioned chains. I think it's important to say. Our approach was actually to always build it in a blockchain agnostic way. We didn't want to kind of get into this Fabric is better than Ethereum, Ethereum is better than Bitcoin, Bitcoin is better than, BSV. We kept a very neutral stand all along, even though I started working on blockchain in 2014. I worked on the Lightning Network, a company called Nero that was founded by Nick Szabo, and we spent a lot of time all around the stack. We really keep it blockchain agnostic, and in the kind of, under the umbrella of convergence, I want to talk about just that. Why is it important for us to not build so many competing chains that don't talk to each other, okay? So think about that. You want to kind of have a secure interoperability. In the session, we're going to have on World Economic Forum, we're going to have a few people from Hyperledger. We're going to talk about a few different technology stacks. But the important thing is that we need to interoperate. And it shouldn't be like one chain ruling them all. I never believed that that's the case. When we worked only on Bitcoin, I was like, that's not going to be the last thing. It was too slow, okay? And we needed KYC. Ethereum came in with a lot of kind of programmable money, right? And there's still an argument whether it's money, it's not money, what are the miners doing, etc., etc. Fabric sort of scored the ABN is here, and we did we did a lot of work on Hyperledger Fabric to meet a lot of requirements that actually highly regulated environments mandate. It's not like an option. You really need to have that. But you have to be able to kind of work with everything. You shouldn't take sides. You shouldn't build something that works only on Fabric or just on Ethereum 2.0, Oh yeah, it's phase 0 ready, proof of stake. People need to innovate, but we also need to keep some unified experience, API, tool sets. And that's what we've been doing for quite some time. Our thing was always, we are not here to displace your blockchain. We are not here to tell you, oh yeah, let's port your stuff from Ethereum on Azure and move you to Fabric on. No. We are running Fabric also on Azure. We are running Ethereum also on different cloud providers. It's not a tech problem. It's a mindset of whether you would like to invest in technology that allows you to share information in confidence and to allow other participants to join your network if they meet certain standards or certain requirements. If I have healthcare data, I can share it only with, I don't know, let's say shrinks, okay? If I have some vaccination, that is very sensitive, I need to protect that. But and to be honest, if you have the right technology stack, you can even do it on Bitcoin. You can even do it on Ethereum. Of course, you can do it on Fabric and Corda because they're more permissioned, but there is enough technology these days that allows us to converge. What I argue, and I've been saying it for a long time, and I'm so glad that very, very big organizations, international and local, begin to kind of, sing the same song of, guys, what are we doing here? Like, we need to start building systems that don't lock our data in one platform, and it's not anything about a specific platform. I was physically a developer and I was the release manager of Hyperledger Fabric. We work with 160 developers, 28 organizations. It was a big thing. Now we have more than 10 clouds supporting out of the box Hyperledger Fabric, for example. That's convergence. People can move and choose clouds and work with the same kind of technology stack. But we need more, and I'll show you what I mean. It's about me, don't worry about it. You can find me, it's very easy to find me. I'm not a quiet person. But we actually took a stand around decentralized access management. We just took a small part of the stack that is not really small. And we started talking about, okay, let's talk about credential management. Okay, we have private keys, public keys. How do we manage them? So signatures, confidential transactions, or everything around zero knowledge proofs, etc., etc. Next step was actually let's try to manage permissions. So comparing the participants to the organizations and who in the organization can do what and when and for how long. The same with access to data, right? And what is us as a company, and this is why I'm going to bring Nipasa, and I think Nadia is going to talk a lot about that, I hope, in our next panel, is about data sharing and how do we interchange and how do we manage that? Because this data cannot just move and people replicate it, and if it's sensitive, we need to permission and actually understand who is doing what with the data for how long and under what conditions. So we moved from just credential management that we did in 2016 as a company to more permission management that Sarah started doing in 2017. We'll talk about the Unbound and what we've done kind of all over the stack. But basically, when you think about secure multi-party data and digital asset exchange, then we really need to converge. We really, really need to converge. We cannot have an exchange that works only with 4 wallets. Okay, and you see a lot of exchanges that are transferring stuff around, moving stuff around. But now that we are kind of beginning to hit mass market, convergence is really, really key. Let's talk about reality. We did all that stuff, and I'm actually the chair of the token. I'm co-chairing the token taxonomy framework working group at the E2Work Alliance. And up until February and March, honestly, Jonathan, myself, right, I was just thinking about, I'm going to spend a year trying to kind of talk about tokenization and legal tokenization. And most of our kind of prediction for the year were, okay, we need to make sure that people understand that tokenization is not a bad thing. You can do legally, it's, because some people had there are a lot of scams in ICOs, et cetera, et cetera. So when you say, oh, I want to tokenize some data, it became like a bad thing. And I thought, okay, I should basically spend more time, and our company should spend a lot more time creating, we created like a legal token wizard that allows you to tokenize stuff. And we started putting together a spec, and of course, Microsoft was involved, and now Nasdaq is involved. There are so many big players that are trying to kind of tokenize stuff. And then Corona, right? We are all running everything from home because coronavirus hit like everyone, okay? We were kind of worried, and basically we had a tool that we have built already in 2018 that allows us to basically have a secure interoperable infrastructure that allows you to move stuff from Ethereum to Fabric to paying Bitcoin. And we basically, if you look at the left side, it's all the record of ownership and identity and exchange transactions. And then we had some zero knowledge proofs on top, DIDs that Martha is going to probably talk about because she's on the board. And there are so many things that are happening also in a decentralized way, but also in a responsible way, right? And many, many organizations these days began to talk about responsible data sharing, responsible AI, responsible integration, and how do we not kind of build yet another conglomerate that is basically a cartel. So we need to be careful about how we actually exchange data, whose data it is, and how to allow other people to contribute to the platform in a way that is effective, confidential, and actually at scale. I don't know how much time I have, so please interrupt me at any time. I have a lot to say. So if I have like a few more minutes, I'm not going to talk that much about the unbounded. I think but people know about it. It's pretty known. But I think what is interesting is how we always work in different blockchains and work in a multi-cloud fashion. I'm going to just quickly talk about it because I think it's important. And this is confidential, so I shouldn't even talk about that. But let's talk about Mi-Pasa. How did we launch Mi-Pasa in 4 weeks? And how did we get to production in just 8 weeks? What we have done, we actually built on the Unbounded network. And we basically wanted to have a platform. So what is Mi-Pasa? Mi-Pasa is a platform that allows you to take different data sets, allow scientists to write different models, and basically to share insights globally. The difference with the way we do it, or let's say our members are using Mi-Pasa, is that they allow you to understand the sources and the origin of the data. So if you have some data from CDC or ECDC or DCC, and you run a model against it, it's very easy for you to understand what data did your model or your research team used at the time. We use blockchain for a lot of versioning, a lot of interoperability, a ton of Hyperledger stack. We have some convergence with Ethereum these days. And it's actually a live platform that you can try right now. That's less relevant, but this is more interesting, I think. We basically allow multiple organizations, and it can be either the organization itself, or it can be some, what we call them data warriors, that will actually go and take data, cleanse it, enrich it, normalize it, and basically put it in Mi-Pasa in a way that if you look at the center of the chart, you have data, you have the actual model that actually combines multiple data sets. We have the provenance attribution and all the access management that we have in Acera. We basically took all of that and we allow you or other people, or like we work with Wharton and many other institutions, to actually consume the data and the models and the insights. And why this became like a very big platform is because we didn't choose any side. We allow people to bring data from Ethereum and data that is on Fabric, and we work with a lot of partners that are connected to governments. And I thought at the time that in the time of crisis, we should put all our differences aside, and we actually connected Microsoft, Oracle, IBM, and many other cloud providers, and we just all work together. And the best thing that happened to our company is instead of like, what can Acera do for us? It became like, Jonathan, what can Microsoft help you with? What do you need? How can we join, if you want us to join the board and help, no problem. If you need cloud, if you need services, we have people in Microsoft helping us with Power BI to make sure that we can represent stuff globally. So it's an unheard of, I don't know, I didn't expect to live through a pandemic, but I think the level of the crisis made all of us work together in a way that I have never seen before. So that's a huge kind of catalyst to convergence, if you ask me, because all this time people are talking about what is my differentiating factor, and I'm more, I have like better hardware, and the other guy is better with developers, and the third one is, has a lot of solutions around data. Everybody came to work on the same platform, and literally, really, I'm telling everybody, Mi-Paso was built on compassion. People just came and helped. People that we don't have really users, we have members. We don't have organizations that are clients. We really have, it's a huge partnership network now. And this is real convergence in terms of taking data sets from different, standards, different structure, file formats, update frequency, and allow researchers to actually focus on research and not worry so much about where is the data, how do I share it, will I get sued, how can I reuse it, can I don't want to reinvent the wheel. And we basically created like a connection between a permissioned kind of infrastructure, because we have some data that is not available for the public and mass consume because it has some personally identifiable information. But at the same time, we want to be able to share stuff with the whole world, because holding data in such a pandemic is actually, I think it's really lethal. Especially when people want to understand what's going on, we need to be able to share that data in a more responsible way, and that's what we built, right? We basically took all of our products, which is something like that, and we just took our stack and we said, look, we usually build a lot of things around the governance perspective and the foundation and the security. We have like zero knowledge proofs and stuff. Forget about it. Let's just put it all together, certified on all the clouds, and start building a fully pluggable technology stack. We don't charge anything for any, we just launch it to the public, and 100% of the partners didn't charge us like a cent. Some people even gave us money, so that's what happened in Mi-Paso. Something that I'm super proud of, and it's a result of many, many years of building an open source technology stack, as well as building partnerships that honestly, I couldn't predict like COVID, right? But we just came to the pandemic in a way, at least from the technology side, ready. We already had the partnerships in place. We already have people running the underlying technology stack. And it just makes us so much more powerful because we can focus actually on the business logic. And that's part of convergence. If I had to go now to Microsoft and say, oh, can we start running Hyperledger Fabric? And if they didn't spend enough time in the space knowing about this and it was not open source, I don't think we would have been able to make it in, not in 4 weeks or 8 weeks, in a year. And the fact that Oracle already had it and IBM had it, it was so much easier to work on a converged infrastructure with the same API and just innovate. Okay, I don't know how much time I have, but please, I think I'm kind of done. A few minutes? Okay. One thing that I want to mention, if I take my Hasera hat off and I put my tokenization guy on, is that I think that we are in a very, very interesting intersection right now. On one hand, we are talking about dApps for quite some time. And if you look at Ethereum and if you look at, I don't know, other chains like EOS, et cetera, we are looking at a lot of communities that have different focuses, right? So there are some blockchains that are built around the computer that cannot stop. You just build something that miners will always run because it's incentivized to kind of pay miners. If you look at what we have done with IBM, Microsoft, Oracle, and others, is basically to build the Hyperledger Fabric framework in a way that it's a lot more easy to comply with regulations in terms of KYC, AML, and understand who the participants are. If I have a minute, I will talk about where I think we should go from here, and we have another full panel about that. But I think we should start thinking about how we tokenize data, how do we tie ownership and identity to people that are not in your organization. Try to think about a much more scalable, large kind of super highway of people coming in with their identity, with their wallet, and they start transacting with other people without any centralized entity. And I think that this will happen only if we start converging some of the stacks, but we still need to keep innovation, going. So we're always going to be like 80% ready. That's what I feel like in the coming 10 years. Yeah, that's my take as an entrepreneur. Yeah, thank you.
Jonathan, many thanks for your introduction, your keynote about both platforms, of course, Unbound Network and Mipasa. I think it is a great example how the crisis can actually lead to such great collaboration. So many thanks for giving us a little view behind the scenes. Some questions are dripping in about especially the Mipasa platform. It was announced that some larger governments and also the Johns Hopkins University Hospital, I think, were all engaged in the platform, but also the Chinese government. Is that correct?
So it depends. Some organizations are just giving us data. Some organizations are a lot more active.
Yeah.
So for example, when you work with Wharton University and the Center of Innovation, they actually had more than 50 people, I think, that contributed to Mipasa in different ways. Mm-hmm. We have two mechanisms in Mipasa. Some of it is like pool data, that we pull data from available source out there. It can be GitHub, it can be, Johns Hopkins University has their own workflow where they kind of publish information like once a day. And then we have a lot of push where we allow integrators to actually provide us data almost in real time. It's almost in real time. So instead of us waiting for them to upload some stuff and then we integrate it, we actually get all the people that are, again, members, not customers and not, and the members can actually push data at real time. We didn't work directly with the Chinese government on that, but we did spend a lot of time in China working with the Unbounded Network, with what is now called the China Blockchain Services Network, BSN.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I was just curious because, there has been quite some global unrest, some distrust between countries as well. So when we talk about blockchain, of course, we talk about sometimes garbage in, garbage forever. So there were questions about, the Chinese government adding data to this platform and how reliable is it actually if governments are also making decisions actually on what can be found on this platform.
This is a great question. So, and several people asked us that before, and just like we didn't want to take, as a company, we didn't want to take sides in the blockchain space, and we helped, code of Sawtooth and Fabric and Ethereum. We took the same stand here. We see ourselves as a international, privately held company, but an international kind of bridge. So in that case specifically, blockchain can help understand the data and the versioning of the data. If somebody is lying or if somebody seems to be wrong, okay, and I'm not talking about this government or another, or that hospital, or even if it was a mistake, our platform allows you to at least look at the data, and when there's an update or a correction, it's very clear what has changed in the system. So we can't control what people share. We can't control if people lie. We can't control if people tweet stuff that is wrong about the elections, about the post-elections, about the pre-elections. We cannot. What we can do, though, we can version stuff. So if you told me on Wednesday at 10 a.m. and you said, I think it's, the temperature is 38 degrees, so I'm going to write it to a blockchain, and I remember that. And then later on, if you change it, at least we have the version as it was at the time. So think about like a time capsule, a global time capsule around the world. And then we can just see who said what, etc. And by the way, we didn't take any sides. If things were wrong, we just report back.
That is
if numbers look suspicious, we just ask if it needs correcting, and that's it.
That's really great. So Henk is actually asking that we are now in December, last month of a crazy 2020. We're looking forward to 2021, where also a vaccine will be available, hopefully globally, as soon as possible. What is the biggest challenge in the upcoming year for MiPesa, and what will happen with MiPesa after, hopefully, this crisis is being solved in the upcoming year?
So I don't know if it's a problem or if but it is a concern. Maybe I'll show it in. Let me see if I have that slide. I can point out exactly the problem that we had.
Okay.
No, I can use the same slide. So one thing that is a bit of a concern is that now that COVID is, let's call it it's very easy for us to get a lot of support, financial, political, institutional. We got a lot of support, right? We have like hundreds of thousands of dollars in terms of infrastructure, back-end and stuff. And everybody is concerned with what are we going to do once we are going to run out of credit, because there's a lot of compute, there's a lot of storage, there's a lot of interaction. We work to capacity. We have there are like tens of people working on MiPasa every day. And it's true. MiPasa cannot sustain itself the way it works right now without having some form of a transaction fee. So while everybody is giving us everything for free, that's great. And thanks, we're really grateful for people allowing us to innovate so much with the hardware and the cost and footing so many bills that, because we consume a lot of power. I think what we will have to do in order to maintain such a global network and to extend it going forward, we will need to find a model where MiPasa will be self-sustained. I'm not sure exactly how, but some form of a transaction fee of some sort. We don't know exactly where and at what point. It's not going to be us taking the money, but if people want to help and let's say contribute data or contribute models or contribute compute, I think it's going to be fair to pay them. Yeah. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to build it, but there are a few ideas that we have in mind. Yeah. It's true. When people will stop kind of footing the bill, we'll have to find a way that MiPasa cannot just run, on their accounts. Yeah.
Wonderful. Jonathan, I really like to thank you again for your keynote. We will see you back at the panel at the end of this session, right? You'll be there.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
With a camera and everything.
With a camera and everything. Wonderful. Yes. All right. Many thanks for now, and we will see you at the end of the session.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, everybody. Glad to be here. Bye-bye.